Randy, thanks so much for having me on. We did file suit in federal court, and ultimately my concern is what's happening under this stay-at-home order from Governor Inslee. We're seeing a lot of our constitutional rights not being honored, and we're seeing people that are being declared essential or non-essential and arbitrarily picking people, for instance, in construction that are able to work if you receive public funding, and other sides, if you didn't receive public funding in the same type of construction site, you're not able to move forward. And so I've been waiting for a long period of time. I've been looking for others to challenge the governor's orders because many of us believe them to be unconstitutional. And so during this period of high anxiety, people are looking to their religious leaders. Maybe it's an imam for a Muslim, or a rabbi for somebody who's Jewish, or a priest for somebody who might be Catholic, or a pastor who somebody might be a Protestant. And so what I've challenged is that our First Amendment rights are being stolen and violated during this period of time under Jay Inslee's stay-at-home order.
So you're going to argue the constitutionality of the stay-home order that he has put into effect. Is there anyone else filing this lawsuit with you, or are you the plaintiff in this case?
I am the plaintiff in this case. And it's really a case based upon fairness, that he's even restricted people from meeting individually. Meaning if somebody is feeling anxiety, just wants to go pray with their pastor or go pray with a friend of theirs within their home, you can't publicly, privately, indoors, outdoors, go have a time of prayer with somebody who might share your same faith.
We know that lawsuits can drag out for months, if not over a year. So are you seeking some sort of emergency injunction or some sort of immediate action from the courts?
We are seeking an immediate action from the courts, and we've seen other states move forward and make a decision within 2 weeks. And my true hope is that Jay Inslee just does the right thing, that we don't have to wait for the courts to make a decision. He has it within his power to say, I take this away. Because something that happened, it was just 2 weeks ago, that we were all operating underneath a voluntary action, meaning for the best interest of our neighbors, we're staying home. That all changed about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, where he said, all right, you need to start calling in on your neighbors. And if you're trying to go to work at a non-essential business, we're going to take away your business license. So he turned it from being voluntary to being this enforceable thing with the law and a heavy hand of the law. And that's where I decided, you know what, this is stepping over the bounds of the Constitution. It moved from voluntarily to being a mandatory under the law, and that he would enforce with law enforcement and the Attorney General.
But if this was truly mandatory under the law and the governor really intended to carry that out, don't you think they would have broke up the rally of 2,000 plus people that you attended in Olympia on Sunday?
I think that he recognizes that he does not have constitutional authority, even though he is giving directives and threatening people and telling folks that they need to call the hotline to report their neighbors. And, you know, I picture this, somebody on their way in their car to their essential job, and they look over their neighbors pulling out of their driveway to go to their non-essential job because they just want to make sure that they have resources to provide for their families. And the person in the non-essential is now called on by the folks in the essential job. I just don't think that's a position that a governor should be putting neighbor upon neighbor. We're in this together, I thought, which was why I think we should remove this non-essential label, make sure that all of us can go back to work, do it safely, and have a proper plan forward, which is what I was hoping we'd hear from our governor last night when he did his public address at 5 o'clock.
So when you say you're seeking an injunction, to what? Lift the stay-home order?
To allow for people of religious beliefs to meet with their pastor, their priest, their imam, or rabbi. He is violating our First Amendment rights. He's violating Article 1 of our own state constitution that says we have the right to assemble and free speech and to practice our religious beliefs freely. And he's put a limitation on that. He says that you can go to a pot shop today, for instance, if you're feeling anxiety and want to go buy some marijuana, you can go do that, but you can't individually go pray alone with a pastor. I mean, that makes no logical sense. You can go to a place where hundreds of people are going in the store every day, and he deems that safe, but going to pray individually behind closed doors in somebody's home or in a church, that's off limits. That's not rational.
Okay, so the injunction you're seeking, the immediate injunction, is narrow. It has to do with the religious practices that you've outlined.
You're right in saying that that is a narrow focus. It's a narrowly focused on people being allowed to participate in religious beliefs or go to pray with their pastor or with their priest.
And I got to ask, obviously you're running for governor. Is any part of the lawsuit aimed at just trying to stay, relevant in the conversation or get headlines or news interviews?
So I've been focused on the campaign as a whole on other issues totally unrelated to this, focusing on what I'm seeing with the rise in the drug epidemic in Washington state, the rise of homelessness, the mentally ill that are suffering under Jay Inslee. Really, he's left a lot of people behind. He continues to help those who don't need it and leave behind those who do. That's the focus of my campaign. And really, I've waited for 4 weeks or more to see somebody bring a challenge to the governor's orders. And I just wasn't seeing anybody move forward. So I am moving forward individually to do so.
So why not do a lawsuit that's more broad, that sort of tries to get to the bottom of what the governor's power really is in a situation like this? Why approach it so narrowly?
We do have balances of power. I mean, the legislature, I think, has been somewhat silent on this. And really today, he made the announcement last night that he's going to go pick 3 different work groups to work on this. He has a work group in regards to the legislature with the House and the Senate. He should be looking to that leadership, say, come back for a special session. Let's talk about how we can solve these issues. I called for a special session 3 weeks ago because I wanted to see immediate relief given to taxpayers and small businesses. I came up with a 5-point plan of economic relief. I've also then come out with a true economic recovery plan to be able to move forward, not just ones with platitudes like we heard last night, but concrete solutions on how we get our economy moving today.
But to my question, if your issue, and it seems to be your broader issue, is that the governor's overstepping his power and he's actually violating the Constitution, why not bring a less narrow lawsuit to try to really put to bed the issue of power in this case?
I think the governor's power needs to be questioned collectively, and that's right for us as citizens of Washington state to always question those in leadership and say, what are your motivations and what authority does the governor currently have and what should be reined in. And so we're decided to bring this lawsuit forward specifically. I think others will be brought forward as well. But I think in the law, it's best to focus on one issue at a time and not confuse the issue. For me, a lot of people are struggling with anxiety and depression. We have 12-step groups that are prevented from meeting in churches today. So people who have been addicted to drugs, people who are alcoholics, people who are looking to meet with their groups to get the help and resources they need, we should allow them to meet.
Now, if your lawsuit or your initial injunction are successful and those groups can start to meet again, and one person infects the whole group and somebody gets sick and dies, can you live with that?
We all decide to live with things on a daily basis. We could drive to work at 6 miles per hour rather than 60. So every day has calculated risk that we in a society choose. And it is heartbreaking. Again, I'm one that values human life. But we also have 7.5 million people in Washington state whose lives are as valuable as well. People who are in a deep state of fear and anxiety today and just have the opportunity to go pray with somebody that they love or just sit down and talk to somebody that's walked with them in their life. I was a marriage and family counselor. I've counseled a lot of adolescents. I used to counsel kids that started fires in King County. People's fear and anxiety is real and has an impact on their physical and emotional health. And to say you have to stay home in isolation and try to just talk over a phone or a Zoom, it's not the same as meeting with somebody in person. There's a powerful healing in the presence of another.
So you believe it's up to them whether they want to take that risk on?
Yeah, I believe that we recognize the risks that we have in daily life. And I think that people recognize, whether it's the flu, COVID, or other different pandemics that we've had in the past, that we need to make sure that we take the responsibility to keep ourselves safe and take safety measures in our own hands. And at some point here, hopefully in the near future, more of us are going to be able to go back to work. And as we do, we're going to be very cognizant that we need to make sure we're continuing to wash our hands and clean down surfaces, clean down handles, and really making sure that we're taking proper safety precautions for ourselves and for others.